Hello everyone, football is back, and with this, there has been a ripple effect of the same from England all the way to the other parts of the world. And with that being said, we're going to start today with the curtain raiser from Friday, which is Liverpool up against Bournemouth, then move on to other matches that caught my interest during the weekend. And before we get in, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so that you get notified whenever I upload. Well, it's been a really good weekend, and it started after a long wait for football. There's not been many competitions in within apart from the Club World Cup, but again, that is what we wanted to see, that players get somewhat a little bit more rest before they get into the next season. And this has been evident to the way the first game week of the Premier League has been quite intense, especially when you put into account teams having strengthened in their own different ways. We have got a really good matchup between these two teams, these few teams that have made business and those that haven't. It's been a good game week to watch football, and I think I'm happy with what I've seen throughout the weekend. So let's begin from Anfield, where Liverpool took on Bournemouth on Friday evening UK time. It was a really good match to watch. On paper, Liverpool had lost once in 17 outings against Bournemouth and drew once as well. So it looked more often than not that Liverpool were doing this one without having to stretch into second or third gear. But it took them by surprise with what they saw that day, that Bournemouth didn't come to just make up the numbers, they come to play. And Liverpool started the game quite quickly, and quite customary from them that they gonna get the first goal, try and control possession for the most part of the first half. However, this break in transition from Bournemouth used to it caught them by surprise, which I think was also as a matter of fact that they have not got the balance quite right in the team. Liverpool, they're still going to have to work a bit more on the way they defend without the ball, the way they set themselves up, especially with their 5 attackers and their 6 defenders. They're not got the balance right, and it's evident that it's the same thing that happened when they played Crystal Palace the other weekend in the Community Shield. When they do not have the ball, there are fewer men behind the ball, which gives teams that are good at transition, as they are, quite an advantage to go and put on a counter, create a big chance, maybe score. And this is how Bournemouth scored their 2 goals from transition. The first one being when Brooks was played in, Frimpong was nowhere to be seen, so it had to be Konate moving out of position to come and defend the right wing back position. And Brooks has always been good with the ball, got his first touch in, a nice assist for Semenyo, which was the same thing that I'm talking about, that they were beat on transition twice during that night, and they needed the heroics of Federico Chiesa from the bench to come and grace the occasion and get the potential match winner before Salah had his say, of course, as he always does in opening weekends, and extends his record up to 10 matches, scoring on 10 opening week matches, which is quite brilliant to see from a player of his stature. So taking that into account, it was looking to end up like a draw, and Bournemouth would have been happy with a draw because, again, it's Liverpool's the champions. You go to the champions patch and get a point on the opening weekend, it's something to be happy about. But I think Iraola will feel that he was hard done by the turn of the results, especially because they kept themselves in the game for a long time before having to let it go with, 5 minutes to spare, 5 minutes to play. They did try and stay in the match for quite a long time before all these chance of events happened quite quickly, and the quality of the opponents was seen quite clearly, that they could stay in the game until the 90th minute, until they had to make something count for themselves. So this will leave Liverpool in a sort of a reflecting position. They did win, but not comfortably. They did not control most of the match because a lot of the football was being played in transition. When they tried to keep the ball, Bournemouth did come in really quickly to try and close them down, close their press, got onto the man, quite physical. And I think it's fair to point out that Florian Wirtz struggled in the match. He couldn't keep hold of the ball. Whenever he had the ball, there was someone on him, and he's not quite strong. And I think he's going to get used to the Premier League's physicality with time. But that is also, again, a wake-up call for them, that there is more that needs to be done if they need to have any chance of retaining the Premier League title. So it's relief for them that they got the 3 points and plus 2 goal difference, which looked more unlikely when we entered into the 80th minute. But again, on an emotional night, they got the job done. And when you hear Arne's post-match, when he was saying when it was 2-2, there was only one man he was going to look up to, but because of terrible, tragic events, he's not there anymore. They did what he would have done when he was called upon in that position. So yeah, I think it's a positive result for them. They will take that over the draw, of course, and I think they'll need to build up more and more onto that result now that they're going to face even better opponents in the next few matches. They have their derby, Merseyside derby, which is always a big match for both Liverpool and Everton. There is Newcastle in there. There is Arsenal in there over the next 5 or 6 matches. So they're going to need to get their tactics right quite early. So with that being said, let's move on to Manchester City. City look like they've been revitalized. Like they have been this meme that was going around when Sergio Aguero left the club, and Pep was very emotional, saying that they could not replace him. They went ahead and replaced him with a player who almost scores for fun in the name of Erling Haaland. And it seems like they never missed him to begin with. Like when he left and they got their money, they've never looked back and said, oh, wish Sergio's here. But now, even with the departures of Kevin De Bruyne and Kyle Walker, they've gone ahead and added Tijani Reinders and Ryan Cherky, among others. And Tijani is looking really good. He really looks like he knows how to maneuver his way around the pitch. He facilitates attacks quite well. And this just might be what they need to transition from a Kevin De Bruyne type of player to a player who not only can create but can also score in the, not creating the same way that Kevin did, of course, don't get me wrong, but again, he can create chances for other players to try and put in Erling for a goal. And I think this season we're going to see a spike in the goals again. I think Erling is going to score plenty again. And as we saw the match against Wolves, they ran the show quite well, and Tijani was man of the match, which was well deserved. I think there's going to be a lot of changes with the Manchester City side, especially with Ryan Cherky, who is looking very exciting. They'll try and integrate him into the first team as quickly as possible. And he's a maverick, that one. He's an absolute maverick. We are waiting to see. We've not even seen what he could do, but in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the match, he scored. He's good with it, both feet. So, yeah, looking forward to see how he's going to work out in that team. But overall, City are looking very much revitalized. They are up for the challenge again. They are favourites to win the league. And I'm not just saying that because they won 4-0 against Wolverhampton Wanderers, whom I'm very worried about. I think when you look into Pep's history, he's never gone 2 years without winning a league title everywhere he's been. And he's the first manager in English football to win the Premier League title 4 times in a row. So I think he knows how to do it, and he knows how to retain the winning strategy in a team. So I'm thinking of them as really serious challenges for this year's title as well. Very serious challenges. So I think Manchester City, let's not sleep on Manchester City. I think they'll not need much time to prove themselves as they did the other season and the seasons before. They've laid down the marker, and they will be winning matches with a lot of goals. So we're waiting to see when they meet now their other rivals for the title. But all in all, I think they are very much revitalized, very ready to take on the league season as well as they can. And I think this is another season that is going to be a 3-horse race, maybe. So yeah, looking forward to it as well. Okay, moving on. Chelsea up against Crystal Palace was underwhelming, to say the least. We expected more from the match. I did. I wanted to see more action at both ends of the pitch. But I think Chelsea, having had a pre-season, okay, not a pre-season, having trained for 6 days before the return of the Premier League, they were looking sluggish. As much as they couldn't create as many chances as they wanted to, they just tried their best to try and mitigate Palace from trying to get something from the game, which made it a stalemate. Like, everyone was equally as good as the other and equally bad as the other. But on another weekend, we might have seen more action. The players were playing more safe, more aggressive to try and get something from the game. I think Chelsea were contented with having to keep a clean sheet, and whatever happens at the end of the pitch happens. If they keep their clean sheet, they're okay with it. So yeah, I think it was a stale match to watch. Nobody likes to watch an 0-0, and yeah, I was bored with it anyway. So hopefully the next matches they try and prove me wrong. They try and play the match, try and create chances, try and risk more, less sideways passing, less cross-field balls with no real intent to try and score. Yeah, so that was that. And moving on to the next one is the big one, Arsenal and Manchester United, when they met at the Old Trafford yesterday evening. I think we also expected more from that match, but just Arsenal made their statement with their win from that match. It came from an orthodox kind of attack, which is a set piece, and they've been really good at set pieces. They've scored 31 goals from set pieces from the last 2 or 3 seasons since the beginning of 2022. So I think that is a really, really good weapon that they think they can hurt the opponents with a lot. But also they've considered a lot from set pieces, which is also wearing, because it's like you're adding at the same time subtracting, which is something I didn't expect. It's a start I didn't expect, that they struggle with keeping out set pieces. But in yesterday's match, they did control most of the possession. After they scored quite early, and after they did, they tried to defend more than they attacked. And this is also credit to Manchester United because they stayed in the game for quite a long time. I didn't expect them to compete against the Arsenal side as much as they did. They, in turn, created more chances than Arsenal did, which is something I really liked about the match. I think just to bring some sort of equalization, I can comfortably say that Manchester United will do better this season as they did the other season. And this is because they compete, they try and make their presence be felt in the match, which is also something really good to see from a side that was basically giving goals away for fun last season. So they really stayed in the match for quite a long time. They pinned Arsenal back, especially when uh, Diogo Dalot was replaced with Amad Diallo. There was a lot of change on the right hand side, and I think they really went for it. After that, they really went for it. They had their fans behind them, and they tried to feed off the energy from the fans to try and deliver something for the fans. And it is not a bad thing to see, even though they lost the match. It showed a lot of promise from their side that they could go and compete with the biggest teams in the land, where they used to belong over the past many few years. So I think they really did well to try and stay in the match, not let Arsenal create more chances than they needed to, and they really went for it, especially over the last 15 minutes of the match. Arsenal was all over the place. They didn't know how to get out of that low block that they had been put in by Manchester United. And I think, speaking of their new signings, Victor Gyökeres didn't much affect the game, especially because he's a player who is very physical. So he was staying very close to the defenders to try and spin them around, because he's not quick. He's not very quick that he'll run down the channels. So he was trying to stay close to the defenders to try and pin them and create his space, and he found very huge defenders in Manchester United's backside with De Ligt, Euro. They were very physical with him, and he couldn't compete because he's probably not used to facing many physical and top defenders back in Primeira Liga, the Portuguese league. So I think with time, we will get to see if he adapts his match to his game to try and fit how Arsenal wants to play. And yeah, I think we'll see more of him when they face more sides in the Prem. And I think it's normal that sometimes you get a very good debut in the Premier League, or a not so good one, especially from a striker's point of view. You need to have chances and score and create and take man on, and he didn't get that last evening, which is not a shame. All credit to Manchester United for what they did. And in their part, their main signings, of course, did affect the game to a level, especially with Cunha and Domo. They orchestrated attack for the very most part of the match for Manchester United, and it gave the Arsenal defense a lot of questions, so they needed to answer. And yeah, I think Manchester United played really well. If they did play like that against a Wolves or a West Ham, they'd comfortably win those football matches. And that being said, I think Wolves and West Ham are going to struggle this season a lot. Not because of just what I saw during the weekend, but I think they're not ready. They have not been ready, and the Premier League is a place where if you're not ready to compete, you will go down. You can't cheat your way to staying in the Prem. Not this time. So yeah, Wolves and West Ham will go down for me. They can't keep up with the competition that there is in the Premier League right now. So yeah, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like more content like this, please consider leaving a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so that you get notified whenever I upload. I'll see you in the next one on Friday when I'm doing a preview for Match Week 2. See you in the next one. Peace.